We on? Alrighty, we're on. Oh my goodness, we are on. Welcome back to Talk Recovery Radio, and you're listening to us live on 100.5 FM. Is my headset backwards? There we go, because that's why we're professionals. There we go. Oh, welcome back. What a show today. We were talking to Dr. Friedman earlier in the hour and talking about her book, Addiction Recovery Workbook. And I like her idea, all pathways work. Let's all respect each other. So you can catch that at drpaulafriedman.com if you want a copy of that book. We just interviewed Lori from Westminster House, and they are having a show called The Recovery Blues. It's right over here. It's going to be on International Women's Day. It's going to be a stellar lineup of people that play blues music. To be honest with you, I know nothing about blues music, so I'm going to go to educate myself about some blues music and hang out with people in recovery and just listen to some good tunes over at the Metro. So if you go back and scroll on our Facebook page, you'll see a live feed for Lori in Westminster House. And if you share that, you can win 2 tickets to the show. So catch that. That's coming up. Let's see, what's the date of it again? The date is, when is it?
March 8th.
March 8th. All right. March 8th, I've got plans, everybody. So, sorry. So we come to you live every week, and we're in the downtown east side, and we have shows with personal stories, overcoming addiction. And we've got Graeme on the show today. Welcome to Talk Recovery Radio.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. And, with these stories, it started off with an idea a long time ago. We talked to a lot of healthcare professionals and doctors and a lot of, PhD people and all that kind of stuff. And after a little while of doing this show, we're like, and not that, they're real people too, but we need to talk about some real issues going on with lived experience and living experience, and started the personal stories. Yeah. And so now you're here, and I know a little bit of your story. So why don't we start off with your step 4? So what got you? No, that's not good.
What messed you up?
Yeah, exactly. How did you end up here?
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And now I'm here.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yes. I love to joke about it, but there is. We're in the downtown east side, so there's a lot of chaos just outside the door here. There's people smoking meth and crystal and just everything out there. Yeah. So your story to get you here, what was the feelings?
Do you want me to start at the beginning, or you want to just talk about the feelings?
Whatever makes you feel comfortable. Yeah.
For me, I just as I look outside that door, and I see many different faces, obviously many different stories, and that's I think what I love about the world of recovery is that we're all such unique individuals but suffer in the same way. For me, I actually grew up in a pretty average home. My parents are still together for whatever that's, for what that's worth. I know that people talk about separation being a big thing or whatever, but mine were still together, and we had kind of a middle class upbringing. But the thing for me was we moved a lot, and since getting clean and sober a number of years ago, I found out that there is a commonality of that in people in recovery, that sort of displacement feeling. So I think that displacement is what really kind of began the seeds of whatever my discontent feelings were that led to wanting to fit in, and then eventually finding a solution for that sort of brokenness or aloneness that I felt inside, and substances really, really helped me with that for a number of years. They really were the solution to my problem. A
lot of people will say that it helped me. It was. I remember the early days. If you would have told me that this was a problem, I would have been like, "Are you out of your mind? This is look at me on the dance floor. I'm amazing."
Yeah. I have all these friends. My phone doesn't stop ringing. I am so connected.
So what was your Did you have a moment there where it's just this is gonna go bad, and just keep going, or was it just catch you like a deer in the headlights?
I think the last 2 or 3 years were, to coin a current phrase, problematic. Red flags were going off all over the place, but I still had, work and an apartment and these types of things. But my relationships were going to the wayside, and how ultimately, there's that old expression, Skid Row is a state of mind, right? And ultimately it was how I felt. And how I felt on a daily, regular basis was that I wanted to die, but I would still show up to my jobs because my jobs paid for my drinking and drug use. I was a bar manager. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't lose the bar job.
Yeah.
Right, because the bar like fed me, so I had to show up to these things. I knew I had the wherewithal to just show up and do these things, but the moments, and they were very few. The hour or two or three of no substances in my system would be eye-opening to me and help me to see what my life was. But then I would quickly dumb that down and obliterate that as fast as possible.
Sounds pretty chaotic, and I bring that up because everyone's focusing right now on the substance.
Yeah.
You know, the fentanyl or the heroin or the crack or whatever it is. But really, like, so much of it for me, and from what it sounds like for you too, the chaos was just as addictive as the substance. It's like finding ways and doing things and, you know, just writing my name on your checkbook and just doing all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it was part of the high.
Yeah, I
love. Was it for you too?
I loved the chase, and I loved being the middleman too. Like, you know, to gather a group of people together and introduce them to a new substance, and be the guy who had to go get it for everyone. And I mean, I would spend most of my night, like, while a party or something was happening. This is before I had no friend, like, because there was a long period of time where it was just me.
Yeah.
But pre that, there was like the gathering, and I loved like not being at the party, but helping the party. I love the chaos of always seeking, and it's interesting because that's like it's a metaphor now, like that I was just always looking, like even being surrounded by people, having the substances and everything I could possibly imagine was never enough. I still needed to like add to that, like how do we add to this, right? And eventually, like I said, it was, you know, for the last year and a half, it was just me, you know.
Here's a loaded question for you. So whatever your drug of choice is, it's like, Graeme, here's all the legal dope you need, prescription grade, no chance of overdose. Here's a little button on your around your neck, so in case, you know, you don't push it, will come save your life. Do you think your recovery journey would be different if you had that?
If I had opportunity to like
just endless amounts of legal dope and all that kind of stuff. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think so, because it was like, I mean, it was a massive impediment to my life. Like I don't. Other people can drink and use with impunity, and that's totally fine. And this is why I love the whole like no judgment of other modalities of recovery or what that might look like, even if it's just, you know, like safe use is dignity, and I respect that, you know. But with regards to me, how I have I started at 15, I cleaned up at 27, I'm 45 now, right? So I've been clean sober for 17 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But there's 12 years there between 15 and 27 that is enough evidence for me to say that I drank and used differently. And so if I want to lie to myself and be like, oh man, you overreacted or whatever, like there's 12 years of you know, some childhood, some teenhood, some 20s, like time when I could have been an active adult, right? Like, you know, and have like maybe some skill sets to deal with hurt feelings or whatever, but I still drank and used in a very abnormal way. And so, I mean, part of me would love to sit down with a case of beer and an 8-ball. Like, honestly, like just the good old days, you know? Like,
I'll have two, please.
Yeah, exactly. Or like seeing the sunrise, like at a party of 8,000
in
people.
Ibiza,
you know?
with the best MDMA.
Oh yeah, and just like me, like at the front with my head in a speaker, and like just, you know, like part of me romances that every now and then, you know, and the conviviality, friendship, and like people, like togetherness, all that kind of stuff that I was truly chasing and thought I had found, especially in the 90s, right? But you know, and then the reality of what that actually looks like starts to seep into me, and I am a sketchy caged animal backed into a corner once I start to use, especially in the, like, I don't call them the wee hours, because I'm talking like 10, 11, 12 a.m. like that, or 12 p.m. like those when I was allowed to go, like just go, because I didn't have work requirements or whatever, like those daytime hours were kind of my favorite. Yeah. Like I like being sketchy.
Yeah, it's and that's the one thing that we don't talk about when it comes to addiction. And I mean, we're sketchy. I get it. Like I put Kleenex in the peepholes of doors. Like there's this. You know, it doesn't matter if it's safe and prescription. And Darren's laughing, holding the camera. Like like
I used to take the
prescription
police for
drugs
like
isn't gonna stop me from doing that, like
Yeah.
so because everyone's right now on this big huge rant about stigma.
Yeah.
Stigma.
Yeah.
Stigma.
Yeah, it's
Stigma.
the
I went to a
word.
conference the other day, and it's like, all I could hear is stigma everywhere. That never existed a few years ago.
Yeah.
I go to a lot of conferences, and
Yeah.
it's like, what is happening to everybody? Like,
Yeah.
like stigma never,
Yeah.
like it might for some people, but it's not the main problem. I mean, they did a survey, CCSA, Canadian Centre of Substance Use, did a survey, and in people in recovery that were surveyed across the country, the number one deterrent of getting into recovery wasn't stigma, it was denial.
Yeah.
I never thought I had a problem, but you don't see any campaigns about that.
Yeah.
Like you won't even see anybody talk about it because like, oh, how dare you think somebody's, denying that they have a, like I
Yeah.
denied I remember getting 12-stepped and I
Yeah.
remember getting an intervention. I remember all that and I was just like, I ain't got no problem. Like
Yeah.
I got no money. I haven't washed my socks, like I was in really bad shape. So when you hear that, what do you think?
Well, there is some obviously relevance to it, right? And I know, like, I actually I primarily perform like live comedy, and I was doing a gig for an abstinence-based recovery center, and the two people I was doing the gig with were comedians, but not familiar with recovery. They knew me.
Yeah.
Right, so that I was like their only evidence of recovery, and I'm not always the best evidence of that. But they were like, okay, so is there any touchy subjects we should stay away from? And I'm like, what? I'm like, addicts we don't care.
Yeah.
Like we really or at least the generation I came out of don't
Yeah.
care. We're not super sensitive. I mean, we are super sensitive, but we're also not super sensitive about that.
You can say some pretty politically incorrect
Yeah.
things to me about
About-
anything,
yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, I did that Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other question was, well, like, are they all religious? And I'm like, what? Like, so there is, there's those little like stigmas that might be sensitive. You got to handle the addict with kid gloves because they, it's like I'm well aware that I messed my life up. You don't need to gently touch me about it. And then also like the spirituality component is very confusing for people. But I think that. If there is one in your recovery is what I'm saying. But I think that even like spirituality is starting to have its stigma reduced, which is good. So I think like stigma reduction is a good thing,
Yeah.
but it's not the solution.
Do you think I'm crazy? I kind of feel like we're creating stigma.
Yeah.
The more we talk about this, and I'll give you a quick example. So, I'm part of the group that puts Clean, Sober, and Proud on,
That's
and
party of the year.
Clean, Sober, and Proud is in the middle of Pride, and we could have when we did this the very first time 8 years ago. Somebody showed up in a mask, and we had to like hide it. We were worried people would see people in recovery.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah,
and
you guys had the
it
tarps
just
on the.
it was just
fence.
bizarre. It was just
Yeah.
this weird world of like, how did people find out?
Yeah.
We're in recovery and all that kind of stuff. And it's just dawned on me when I was 16 years old going to Toronto Pride for the first time. It's like, how did people see me on TV?
Right.
And I was like, screw this. Like, we're going out in the like we're gonna make this so normal
Yeah.
that it's like the idea that it's a substance-free event isn't the draw. It's just we're great people in recovery, and over time it's created this world of inclusivity. And there's a whole world out there that hate the word clean and hate the word sober, but we're like in the middle of it. We're proud of our labels and so forth, and it's almost like there's more people that aren't in recovery showing up. Like it's just balloon,
it's the better,
right?
It's the best party at Pride, like hands down.
And so I feel like when I go and I hear people talk about like these words are stigmatizing. It's like I don't care if 90% of North America thinks the word addict is stigmatizing. You change your mind. I'm not going to change
like
mine.
I refer to myself as a drunk, as a junkie, and as a dope fiend, like in very casual conversation, and I don't mean anything by that. And those are my words.
Yeah.
Like I'm tired of people using the term triggered on Facebook because I'm like, hey, that's our word.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
triggered was our. Like,
Exactly.
And I think like to speak to what you're saying is that like the spectrum got bigger right? And so like what was just like, you know, maybe substance abuse or mental health issues or substance misuse all came to the party, so to speak. And so as it began to get wider, which is good because it becomes normalized or whatever, but then the people who maybe don't identify with what the core principles were, meaning like that they were like addicted and could not stop on their own, maybe they were just like, hey, I'm really terrible on weekends, but Monday to Friday I've got my shit together, you know, like, but so those as the margins got wider, I think that things like stigma and hey, don't use that word clean anymore, it hurts my feelings or whatever, those kind of things started to happen with more frequency.
Yeah.
And so and then, you know, now all of a sudden it's like, hey, let's, you know, why don't we just give out everything, or why don't we just do like, and it's okay. Like I'm glad that like we're now helping so many more people. But I was thinking about it earlier in the show, and I'm like, I had to let go and realize that this beautiful thing that we're all a part of is evolving, and maybe it's not going to be worse for it, you know, and just maybe like cross my fingers and have some kind of faith that it's all going to get better because it's going to help other people that may not have gotten help. I don't know. Because all I got is my 17 years, and I got
I remember a few years ago is like now I'm kind of like, okay, if that's what you think, like we're gonna do what we're gonna do, you're gonna do what you're gonna do, and hopefully somewhere in the middle, we're all gonna come together, and you're not right and you're not wrong, I'm not right and I'm not wrong, and I'm good with that, I'm finally good with that, but it kind of irks me, you know, just watching things go on like. It's just to find it's so rude to say your label is stigmatizing. I mean, it's just so rude. I'm like I label myself so mean. You know, like how could you say that about me and all my friends?
When I talked to you Recovery Day, I was there to give a talk about like improv comedy and recovery and how it relates. And the first thing I said to you is, there any words I'm not allowed to say? Because I genuinely didn't know.
What did I say?
You said, tell your truth. Don't worry about it.
Oh, did I say that? Who's good?
Yeah. Because I was like, can I even say recovery? Can I? I mean, just call it Recovery Day. But like, you know, like I was worried that I wasn't allowed to say. I'm
so adamant. Like whatever you like, you speak your truth and don't ever let because so many people tried to control my language when I was in high school. I'll never forget it. It's like now to look back, it's like I'm gonna do what I want. You know what I mean? I bring things up for review, and I don't live on this little island. But it's like, don't tell me what I can and can't call myself. Yeah,
I already had a bottle and some substances doing that for me for 12 years. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like I obviously things are up for review, and I take inventory and look at my life. But at the same time, I didn't get sober to live in a controlled bubble either.
I know, it's amazing.
Like I have so much freedom now.
Yeah, totally freedom. Yeah. So. You do comedy. Let's talk about what's going on for you right now, and you know, let our viewers know what's going on for you right now.
Right now, you know, right now I just had my 17 years was January 6th. That just passed by, and thank you for your earlier applause. But you know, I work primarily as a film and TV actor, but I also work as an improv comic. I travel the world either on. You know, cruise ships doing comedy. I flew to China just in November to teach improv to the cast of.
What was that like?
I taught improv to the cast of SNL China. Yeah.
Okay, you gotta tell us.
And this is those moments where I say like, I'm just like a low bottom drunk from a bachelor apartment in the West End, okay? And now all of a sudden I'm in China teaching the SNL China cast improv. Like. 17 years later, you know, like it blows my mind. So what was it like? It was mind blowing. China's the future. Like it's wild.
Yeah, I want to go there so badly.
Shanghai's beautiful, great people, amazing food. Nobody uses cash. It's like the subways light up with LED lights. It's just the city skyline lights up and changes as the night goes along. Like
we're really screwed here in North America.
Oh, we're arguing about bike lanes.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like we're mad. Like people are legitimately mad about bike lanes. And in China they're just like, well, where would people ride their bikes?
Did you see any of the addiction world? Did you see any of the recovery world while you were there?
No, I didn't actually. No, I didn't. I mean, I was open about it with my friend Eric who brought me there, just so he knew where I was at, and actually like the entire cast, because it's China, and I was like the teacher, so the entire cast just became what I was. So there was like I was never offered a drink.
But yeah, so you
Yeah.
you went to China and you didn't notice the addiction world. I mean, anybody that
Yeah.
comes to Vancouver and spends any amount of
Yeah.
time here, you're going to see the addiction world.
Yeah.
So I was in Portugal just last
Oh,
year
yeah.
doing some filming, and it was the same thing. Their main city, Lisbon, and you know, other than the fact that we did some interviews and we went and we had to
Found it.
go
Yeah.
and find where you can find addiction world. I mean, on the main strip in the center of Lisbon, you can buy drugs from like it's all organized crime on
Right.
there, but it's probably not even real drugs the cops are talking about. It's just, but it's not what we have here, right? This is pretty unique what we got in North America.
It's the first thing that people notice. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, it's like, wow, you've got those mountains and a lot of homeless and street people.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I'm talking, I spent a lot of time on cruise ships last year sailing down to the Caribbean, and I leave from Florida, so I had a lot of like southeastern United States people, as well as like Long Island and stuff like that. And anybody who had been to Vancouver, usually because they're cruise ship people, they've been here for 3 days or whatever, right? But the first thing that they notice is what we've got going on, and it's not isolated to the downtown east side. I love it. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, I worked for a spell with a shelter in Vancouver, and you know, they had to open in Abbotsford and Maple Ridge, and like, I mean, there's Castlegar has fentanyl issues. You know, like it's like
So you're 17
province.
years
Yeah.
clean.
Yeah.
We got a few minutes left. So to some people, it'd be like, why?
Yeah.
Why are you 17 years clean?
Yeah. Yeah, I used to think that too when I first started going to meetings. I'd see people with time, even like 2 years. I was like, that guy's lying, you know, because I couldn't get 6 days, right? And but why do I stay sober for 17 years? It's just, like I've had ups and downs. I've lost people. I've had my heart broken. I've been married. I've done I'm currently married too. But I've had ups and downs of life in the last 17 years, and stuff that would like kind of like maybe send somebody back to using, and then good times that have sent people back to using, right? But I just know in my heart of hearts that anything good that's ever happened in my life, including the bad, is only because I got clean and sober on January 6, 2002. And I stay sober sometimes, even on the worst of days, just because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and I get excited about it. I still get excited about tomorrow, and I didn't have that before. I was
That's such a
resentful
good point.
you
Yeah.
know,
I mean, when you're using it, it's almost like you're afraid of tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm 45 years old now, and I mean, I still got some time left on the clock. You know what I mean? But like, I was at this meeting in Kauai last year, and this big burly tattooed guy named Kana, who became my friend. He looked out at the ocean while he was sharing, because it's an outdoor meeting, and he saw the waves and the sun and stuff, and I saw tears rolling down this big burly guy's eyes, and he just said, you know, I just know that I want to live today.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's the truth. I mean, I'm just going back and I'm right now just going down memory lane, and like, it was a nightmare. And I'm sure it was a nightmare for you,
Yeah.
and it's a nightmare for even when I said it wasn't a nightmare, and I kind of just played it all cool. It was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare.
It was a damn nightmare.
Yeah, and it is a nightmare 12 feet away from us right now.
So the $1 million question: what's the difference between you and them? Like, why? What do you think?
I know, right? Is it a lottery? Is it like, you know, did I get lucky, or what's the difference? I had an opportunity, and it's like, and I jumped at it because I know the opportunity. I've worked down here. I know the opportunity is presented, so I really don't know. That it's such a huge and complex thing. Like, as I've sat with individuals one-on-one, and I've heard about their trauma, and I've heard about their mental health, and I realize that our thing, like, as it gets wider, this concept of recovery, like we talked about earlier, is that it's so complex. And I could say, hey, you know, pull up your socks and do a set of steps, and they'd be like, are you kidding me? Like, I need to, like, I haven't had clean socks or lunch. You know, like let's start at the beginning. You know, and the beginning is like, how do I help you today? And how do I be of service? And it just at least be an instrument of change, you know. So I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm grateful I did get that opportunity. And I think it's just meeting people where they're at, maybe, and maybe one day, you know, I mean, miracles do happen, and I don't mean in like a biblical sense, but I mean, what I mean is like change does happen.
It does.
And random good fortune is a part of life. Sometimes good shit happens to people.
Sometimes. I wouldn't mind me some of that.
Yeah.
So, do you have a website for your improv? Because you got a course that's coming up as well. A couple minutes on that.
You can just. I don't have the website set up now, but I will be working. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook, Graeme Duffy, or Graeme or Instagram 02. Just find me, say hi to me. I've got a lot of ideas for the recovery world and things that I want to work on, including Improv for Recovery, which is a workshop for frontline workers as well as those who are clients in treatment centers to help people to break out of their shell and maybe take a look at those fears and those isolating behaviors that come. I think that the work of the arts actually helps us to take a look inside and then eventually take a look at how we can connect with others.
Well, thank you so much. My boss always says, if you can't laugh and you're not having fun at the office, then you're not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, you just not. You have to have fun in life. So I'm glad I got that in me, and I appreciate you being on the show. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And you're listening to Graham's Personal Story. We're here on Talk Recovery Radio, and every week on Thursdays, 1 o'clock to, no, not 1 o'clock, noon to 1, we are live, and we're going to close off the show. Darren is coming back on the mics here. He's got our closing song for us. Darren?
Yeah, check it out.
We got like a minute left.
Oh, wow.
We got like a minute, 2 minutes. You got anything for...
Well, now we might be able to play a full song at the end of the show.
Oh, really?
So we're just going to go right into that. This is a dude from the interior of BC. His name is Steve Broccoli, and he's got an amazing album out. This is the self-titled track, Is Not Was, Steve Broccoli.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Thank you.
Thanks, Graham.
Yeah.
And don't forget, we got Lori here. Go back on our Facebook feed. You can go to the Recovery Blues on March the 8th, fundraiser for Westminster House. Right on?